AI is creating space for us to move away from a lot of repetitive, reactive, administrative work and really be able to elevate everyone in HR to really operate at a more strategic. It means to optimize technology to make the best decisions you can make, and also to create space to really work on what's important. So I'm very excited about not spending my time and having my team not spend time on crafting job descriptions, for example, or analyzing large sets of data, and really moving the needle from being so into transactional day-to-day type of work to being a way more strategic business partner.
Simina, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, Anthony. Glad to be here.
It's lovely to have you. Before we dive into our discussion today, I'm sure our audience just love to hear a little bit more about you, your kind of journey to your current position, your expertise.
Sure, I would love to share that. Long story short is that I started my career in human resources in Europe. I worked there for quite a few years before relocating to the Bay Area. When I relocated to the Bay Area, obviously I restarted my career, and I was very fortunate to be able to do it in technology companies, and it's been an amazing journey. I've seen scale and a lot of changes. I've led teams in the U.S., but also across the globe, and I like to think about myself as being a roll up your sleeves type of operator who cares deeply about building intentional cultures and really providing strategic value to the businesses I operate in. Um, I've done it across multiple sectors, from video gaming to climate to a lot of SaaS and now AI. And I'm excited to see the transformation that's happening right now in tech.
Yeah, definitely. So with your current role, then, what do you think has been the biggest change that you've seen since you started doing it in terms of people
There is a
leadership?
lot of change. There is a lot of change in tech. A couple of trends that I'm seeing, obviously, is the boom in AI and how much help, but almost how much potential uncertainty it's happening around this new development and new technology. Another trend that I'm seeing is how money is not cheap money anymore, and investments are harder and harder to get.
Hmm.
With that comes the pressure of doing more with less and being really creative in how people leaders are adding value to their companies. In the past few years, as you know, and everyone in the industry knows, we've been through quite some turbulences, from the COVID times, from working from home, reinventing that playbook, to really, now optimizing for growth that's decoupled sometimes from headcount growth. Um, and one of the biggest trends that I'm seeing is, after, a lot of hard years with a lot of layoffs in tech, employees are looking for reasons to trust leadership teams again,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? And with everything that's happening in the world, especially all the development around AI and how that gets implemented into companies, I think we need to be very mindful about change management based on that ground of uncertainty that's coming from some of the employees.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're in this kind of phase, aren't we, with AI right now, where it's kind of, I almost feel like the fear phase is fading a little bit, and I think we're kind of entering like the excitement age a little bit, where people are kind of seeing the potential of it now. And I think it's like that with any kind of technological development, is that, like, because this is really the biggest thing we've seen since the internet. I think, isn't it? In terms of like its potential to change the world of work, as well as like our personal lives and all of that kind of stuff. And I think, we've kind of got out of the fear phase a little bit. Some people are still fearful, but now people are realizing, oh wow, like this can change everything. Absolutely, like there's not a thing that it won't touch again, like the internet. It's so it's exciting times, I think, definitely. And I'm glad you started talking about AI, because we want to talk today in particular about AI in HR and people leadership in
Mhm.
particular. And you mentioned that element of trust. And that's really kind of quite crucial to your role, isn't it? It's that element of kind of creating culture that's based on trust and those kinds of things. So, what do you think is what excites you most about the potential of AI in people leadership or human HR leadership?
I, I'm glad you asked this question, and I'm happy to provide a little bit of context. As I mentioned, the tech world has been through quite a bit of change, right? In the past few years, the narrative for a lot of companies was do more with less, be careful with budgets and the spend, and a lot of new projects were added to our playbook, right, in our desk. With AI, I'm really excited about everything that's happening, especially in HR, because AI is creating space for us to move away from a lot of repetitive, reactive, administrative work, elevate everyone in HR to really operate at a more strategic level. And when I'm saying this, I'm thinking about, okay, what does it mean to be strategic in HR? It means to optimize technology to make the best decisions you can make, and also to create space to really work on what's important, and that is predictive analytics and actually what decisions you make after you analyze the data. Creating intentional cultures that are helping organizations win economically, focusing on leadership coaching and development, succession planning, and dealing with clarity and transparency and empathy, so that whatever you're building is there to stay and really move the needle in terms of business results. So I'm very excited about not spending my time and having my team not spend time on crafting job descriptions, for example, or analyzing large sets of data, or crafting lots of HR policies, and really moving the needle from being so into transactional day-to-day type of work to being a way more strategic business partner to everyone in the business,
Yeah,
and helping those that are really pushing the business and the performance forward. So that excites me quite a bit. And that also tells me that HR teams are not going to be replaced by AI technology, but how we work, what kind of input we have in our organizations is going to change significantly.
certainly you can misuse AI, but I think when it's implemented properly, it can really remove kind of that work that just clogs you up your day to day, so that you don't actually have the time to really start thinking strategically.
And now with AI, you can do more, you can do things better, you can be more strategic. A lot of the HR leaders were able to do that, but not our direct reports. And now I feel like we can build these muscles in our direct reports, and we can elevate the team to really operate at a different level and be a true business partner for the business. And that's where the results are gonna come from.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so too. So I'm curious then, how has the discussion around AI changed in the kind of HR or people leadership sphere? Like, what have you seen it kind of go from fear to excitement? What's been the kind of journey of it?
I've seen that shift, but I also seen the shift on how, and I'm going to talk about both, how AI is being used and utilized today. So when I think about the last 12 months or so, probably a little bit more than that. In the beginning, AI was pretty much equal to recruiting automation, right?
Right.
That's where it started pretty much. We were able to draft job descriptions, interview paths. We were able to use chatbot and all sorts of scheduling tools, collect feedback, make sure that the bias is being reduced, and we make the best decisions. That was the beginning of AI. And if I think about where we were 18 months ago and where we are today, a lot of things shifted. After that phase of AI equals recruiting automation, I experienced something that was deeply related to productivity. All the tools that pop up in the market were really helpful around analytics, for example, performance management, curating personalized learning experiences and paths that unlock the superpower of HR departments. Now, I'm actually seeing even more. So we move from the recruiting automation to productivity. Now I see that a lot of the conversations and the intentionality is related to the responsible adoption. How do we adopt this type of technology in our organization in a way that provides so much clarity and transparency to our employees that we are also architects of the all the emotions in the organizations related to AI? We are, hopefully a lot of the HR leaders are pushing forward a clear agenda so that employees can move away from fear and skepticism to, okay, if we embrace this, we can actually elevate how we operate and do things that are hopefully more exciting for all of us. Obviously, we still have to solve a lot of challenges, right? We still have to be clear about what is the intention of implementing these AI technologies into organizations and what are the potential negative consequences.
Mhm.
And also actively to figure out, okay, how do we equip our employees to have AI literacy? How do we equip them to build skills? If, for example, some of, entry-level roles are going to be automated, we really need to think as leaders and as a society about this to be able to create new paths towards fulfilling careers or, um, things our employees can do to lower the anxiety and prep them for the tech world of tomorrow, because it's going to come probably faster than we expect.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really great. And I also imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, one of the issues that you come up against as well is privacy, isn't it? It's data privacy and things like that, especially in HR where you're dealing with a lot of personal information. Does it come with a challenge kind of integrating, I guess, employee information into these kind of systems? I mean, I don't know, but I mean, what do you think?
It does, and you have to have a policy around what goes,
Mm.
what kind of information feeds these systems. You have to have a pretty good playbook on how to evaluate the vendors and how to ask the right questions, right? It's I think it's automatically hopefully assumed that everybody is realizing that as human comes with biases, systems are going to come with biases, and you have to test that different groups of employees and really understand what's working, what's not, and create paths for communication and escalation so that everybody looks at this type of new technology with curiosity and learns from it together and adjust what's working, what's not. Obviously, I like to have systems and make sure that the data is ours and it's not going to be shared outside of the organization. I tend to think in systems and how all of these things and practices are going to get scaled, and what's something that we can allow to happen in an organization, and what are some of the rules and guardrails around how we use AI and what we don't do when it comes to AI to protect the employees' privacy and their personal information. And all of these things, as I'm sharing this thing with you, everybody's learning and testing pretty much in real time. What's working, what's not working, what can we do, what can we not do, what are the risks if we do something that we didn't really think about in depth, about all the negative consequences, potential negative consequences.
Mhm.
And all of these realities are going to really shape the HR stack.
Yeah, yeah,
That
definitely.
I think we're in, I mean, when I think about all the development and how fast things are moving, there is a pretty high chance that the stack that we're used to today, it's not going to be, not everything that we're used to is going to stay in the near future. And a lot of these things are probably even going to be built internally in-house to protect, the privacy and all of the
Yeah,
data that needs
yeah,
this automation.
definitely. I love how you mentioned as well that, AI education, AI literacy, education, because that's a thing I think that really does need to happen. And I've heard about organizations actually doing this, kind of having like little workshops in how to use AI. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, like, I guess, so impressed by the capabilities of it that they just kind of think, well, you can just like leave it to do what it's going to do. But of course, like, the thing is, even if you're using something like an LLM, like a ChatGPT or whatever, it's still, there's an art to prompting. There's an art to inputting information in these systems, I think. And I think we're all kind of, we're getting better at learning that. We're getting better, I think, at figuring out that, it's only as good as what we give it. all the time, isn't it? So that it doesn't take away responsibility from us. So it still needs like that thoughtful implementation, doesn't it? I
Mhm.
think, even though it will save us a lot of time, I think in the setup there's still a lot of
And
yeah.
what I'm learning, for example, when I'm building AI agents, right, for chatbots responding to frequently asked HR questions, for
Hmm.
example, because
Hmm.
that's it's such a easy way to automate a lot of the busy work for HR teams and
Course,
elevate
course.
how they operate in organizations. Um, what I'm learning is that when you want to teach other people how to um, create these agents, the traditional way of training in person next to each other, showcasing how you prompt this agent actually works very well. So, because of that experience, for example, I'm more inclined to believe that um, human connection, it's gonna be here to stay, and it's probably gonna become even more important.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking that ultimately, at the end of the day, AI is gonna prepare a lot of the things that we need to prepare in our work, but at the end of the day, the delivery done by humans while putting things in context is going to be something that's going to have a very important impact.
yeah. And you just mentioned a great example, which was chatbots for kind of frequently asked questions. And of course, the benefit there is that your human personnel and your human employees then have the scope to deal with more complex issues, don't they? You know, that
Absolutely.
absolutely need that human touch. Somebody who's just like, trying to figure out how to log into a system or something, like they don't want to sit on a call and have like a long conversation. They just want the answer now. So the chatbot can easily pick that up, but when it's a more complicated, more kind of specialist problem, I think that's a really great example. And also I think it just saves people, I think, who are dealing with these kind of problems from burnout, actually, from having all
Absolutely.
of those complaints, having to trudge through all of the simpler stuff. That's all cleared out the way. You have the brain space, you have the mental space for the more complex customer
And
complaints.
also,
Yeah.
chatbots are never tired, right? You have an
Yeah.
international organization with people across 18, 20, 50 countries. It's so easy because you can actually provide great service, automated service at any time,
Yeah.
during the day or night, and people don't have to wait for 10, 12, whatever hours for someone on the team to respond. So that really helps a lot, increases the satisfaction, is
Yeah.
creating lower burnout for the HR teams or any type of support teams. And it's just elevating what individuals can do and how much more strategic they can become.
Yeah, that's great. So we touched on this already a little bit. We talked about how it's going to change HR as a whole, but what do you see, like, in light of what we've been saying about the technology shifts and all of that? How do you see the actual role itself? What do you think it's going to look like in the coming years? How do you see it evolving in the kind of wake of this AI revolution?
Great question. And I mean, the HR role evolved a lot in the past 5 to 6 years, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's continuing to evolve. Like, for example, now I'm thinking I'm not only the culture steward as the CHRO, I'm actually a tech steward as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I need to understand algorithms. I need to understand data quality. I need to understand bias. I need to understand, okay, what kind of data do I feed into the model so that actually I'm creating a system that can scale and it works, and it's free as possible from biases, right? That's something that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, okay, what is my role in making sure that this type of technology is being used in an ethical and fair way? But on top of all the other traditional HR hats that I'm wearing. Um, and because of that, I think the role of an HR leader is becoming even more strategic.
Mm, yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Right. And it's an important voice around the table. So those are all of the things that I'm thinking about. I know CHROs, CPOs, people leaders are thinking about as well. I'm attending quite a few events in the Bay Area. I'm based in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and I'm fortunate enough to be in the middle of all this technological revolution and to really hear from peers from all these companies how they also think about these things. And it's becoming increasingly clear that we're becoming tech stewards as well.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people are finding that in with AI just becoming so enmeshed with everything, is that all of our roles are kind of technology adjacent now. There isn't
Hmm.
really like there's no separating from it. You either sink or swim. I think that's
Yeah.
true for a lot of industries right now. And I think, like you said before, the people who adjust to it, educate themselves on it, will not just float but swim. And the people who don't, unfortunately,
Or
they're gonna suffer. I think it's just the way things are going. You want to remain competitive, you have to get on board, don't you? 100%. And it sounds like
and you have to stretch, your comfort zone all the time, especially with new technologies, right? And
yeah,
but bottom line is you have to get your hands dirty, try and do it. And
yeah,
that's how you learn quite a bit. And that's how I've learned how to use these technologies. I just roll up my sleeves and played with it and figured it out, how to build agents and how to do things and how to automate things. Um, and I think that's the recipe for success.
yeah, definitely.
Now I do feel a little bit of, gaining some superpowers because of
Mhm.
AI. I can do more things in faster, in less time. I feel even less burned out, even though work is becoming more complex day after day. And it's also because of this amazing technology that we have at our fingertips right now.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. So let's talk a little bit. I mean, we've mentioned it a little. We've touched on it already a bit, but can we talk a bit more about the practical applications that you've been going through so far? Can you mention just like maybe three different things that you've implemented in your role in the HR role with regards to HR that you feel like with regards to AI, sorry, that you feel like are making the biggest have made the biggest impact, you've been the most impressed by?
So we talked about the chatbot that helps respond to questions
Mm,
from employees all over the world, and that saves a lot of time. The second important implementation or application is data analytics and predictive capabilities. You can feed If you feed the right data into the systems, you can figure out who is potentially gonna be a nutrition risk, who is potentially going to experience burnout, who is ready for potentially taking the next role, and needs to be set up for success to do that. What is the pulse in the organization and where the signals are coming from, and what can you do that's individualized for the needs of each team to make sure that
mm,
you create that retention and the performance-driven culture. So a
mm.
lot of data analytics and predictive inputs are really, really helpful. Another area where I can see and I'm using it is performance evaluation feedback, but also learning and development that's curated to individual needs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
There is a lot of unlocking power that AI provides for the HR teams. And I'm only at the beginning of the journey. I feel like I'm only scratching the surface, and there
That's
is
that.
so much more that
Yeah.
we can do with APIs, with really building the data warehouse behind all of these things. And I'm actually getting excited about working with engineering and data science teams to enhance the potential of what AI can do for HR and for entire organizations.
Yeah, definitely. I love what you mentioned about the data and analysis to check who is likely who's maybe struggling in an org, who's maybe experiencing burnout. That's such a great, like, that's kind of like, it's the opposite of what people think AI is going to have, the effect people think it's going to have on people, where they think, a lot of people I think who are skeptical think, oh, it's just going to, it's going to kind of treat everyone just kind of like, cogs in a machine. But the fact that you can use this technology actually to notice patterns that perhaps in our day-to-day work we'll overlook, which can then lead to a more kind of empathetic response, is really
But also
something.
proactiveness.
Yeah,
Proactiveness that are serving the organization as an HR leader in a proactive way versus a reactive way. The
yeah,
more you can partner with the business and you can say, this is the trend that we are seeing. This is the story that the data is telling us. And if we are um, being proactive about it and we address these things before becoming large issues, we can actually avoid a lot of unnecessary headaches,
yes, of course, yeah,
and we can drive faster for performance and for one of the, for a healthy organizational culture.
yeah.
And uh, m- maybe I'm too optimistic. hopefully I'm not, but I do believe that healthy organizational cultures will win economically. I do
Yes.
believe there is a business case to be made that if you create a culture that is based in clarity, transparency, kindness, fairness, the chances of success are going to increase
Oh, absolutely.
versus
Yeah.
opposite of an organizational culture. So I'm thinking, how can we deploy this great technology that we have now at our fingertips, and where we are today, and where we gonna be in 3 years from now? I don't think I can even grasp how much development is gonna happen.
Yeah.
I think all of this development is going to help us really do more. And I do believe, for example, that there is a path towards $1 trillion companies or multi-billion-dollar companies that are not going to have thousands and thousands of employees anymore, and that's going to create potential opportunity, not shrinking jobs. It's going to create the opportunity of a lot of people being able to build new businesses and
Yeah.
solving a lot of the things that we didn't solve yet. So I'm an optimist, and I want to believe that this technology is going to be deployed to help humanity and make humanity thrive. And as a HR and tech steward, it's my responsibility to make sure that we're going to implement it in this way.
I love that. Yeah, that's so great. And I think I don't think it's overly optimistic at all to say that, healthy, happy organizations lead to better results. I don't think it is at all. And I think especially now, when so many companies where, I think one of the big shifts we've seen is that people are increasingly scattered, in terms of like we have more global teams now, where people are kind of, dialing in from various, especially in tech companies, right? You see more of that. And I think it's probably more important than ever, I think, at this point, that people, when they feel like that they can communicate with each other, where they have that safety to communicate, that it's going to lead to better work, isn't it? It's going to lead to that transparency. When you can voice concerns, when people can get together and talk about things, that's when problems get solved faster. It's like you were saying about being proactive versus reactive. Without that conversation, it doesn't happen. And that conversation doesn't happen in organizations that aren't healthy, does it? Um,
I
yeah.
trust and I hope that AI is going to create more space for human touch.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's what I hope as well, definitely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit then about potentially maybe some of the potential drawbacks. We're going to play devil's advocate a little bit here. Because we've been talking about how positive it is, how exciting. I'm totally
Mm-hmm.
on board with you here. What do you think is like, because we want to kind of, preserve that balance, don't we, between automation and human touch, and hope that the two kind of go hand in hand. That's the kind of ideal. Um, how do you think, what would happen? Would you think would have to happen in order for that balance to go off? How could that potentially go wrong? And what are some of the risks that we have to be mindful of, do you think, in this?
Great question. I think one of the risks is believing that AI is neutral.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think it's neutral. I think it reflects the data that's being trained on. That's something we all have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Data quality, what you feed into the models, it's very important, and it's going to become even more and more important as these models are evolving and they become even more sophisticated. Another risk is treating AI output as facts.
Hmm. Yes.
I think that you always have to apply human judgment to
Hmm.
what you're getting from the AI models. Put all of those things into your organizational context with the knowledge that you have, and maybe it didn't make it into the models. Think about, okay, is this really an output that applies in this organization? Can I trust it 100%? Do I need to tweak it here and there? Do I need to put it in the right context and make it relevant? And probably another big potential drawback or risk is underestimating how employees perceive AI.
Mm.
And what I'm thinking about here is like, okay, how do we roll out all this change? Right? We have to be really careful about change management. If it feels opaque or punitive,
Mm.
it's going to erode trust.
Yes.
And as
Yes.
I mentioned in the beginning of the conversation with you, Anthony, is I think because of so many changes that happen, so many layoffs, so many cuts, so many, hard decisions that leaders made in tech in the past few years, I think everyone is looking for reasons to trust again.
Mm.
And the implementation and the change management in that light and from that lens has to be even more carefully crafted.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, and then
This is
you have that added fear again, like we were saying, that still exists with these technological shifts. I think people have to be mindful
we
of
are
it.
biased as humans, right?
Yeah,
People are biased.
yeah, of
Like
course.
we produce the data that feeds the models. Models have, potentially bias. We need to be aware of it, and we need to put in place mechanism to really test for that. For example, when you roll out systems in the company, test it with different groups of employees, right? Create a path where employees can have a conversation where they share their concerns or fears or feedback. Lead with curiosity. Learn together about these things. Adjust. Be not Don't be afraid to say what these technologies are doing, not doing, what they can do better, how we're going to optimize them to do better. I think that open dialogue reduce the anxiety,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And really create that transparency that we need when we are dealing with such a new development. I
yeah.
think that's non-negotiable, stable stakes, and it's non-negotiable.
Okay, so let's talk then a little bit more about like what you kind of see for the future of all of this then. So do you see this as like AI in particular? A lot of people talk about AI as a tool. I'm getting the impression that you don't actually really look at it quite as that. How would you sum it up in terms of how you view it and how you see it as a part of what you do in your day to day?
I think it started as a tool.
Yeah.
I think we all looked at it like, oh, these are the tools. They're cute. You can do these things with them. Oh, actually, they're very helpful now. You can do more. You can be more productive. I think that narrative, or at least how I'm looking at things, is shifting, and it's shifting quite fast because I think we're moving away from the tool element to it's gonna become an invisible but constant a system
Hmm.
that's gonna be embedded in everything that we do to really craft and curate individualized experiences. That's how I'm thinking about it. I think it's gonna help us um, create systems that feel less bureaucratic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's gonna help us personalize a lot of our experiences in organizations, in our personal lives. I think workplaces are gonna become more intuitive, I don't know, responsive, supportive. At least I'm choosing to see, the benefits from all these technologies. And I think we're gonna move away the conversation from what AI tool did you use today to how are we using it and how is making my experience, how is enhancing my experience and making it more personal and relevant for me or for my group of employees or for the organizations or for the teams. And I think that's going to be the true unlock
Mm.
when that's going to happen.
I love that. And
Mhm.
I think that's a lovely note to end on, actually, Simina. Thank you so much. If people want to find out more about you, reach out to you, more of your insights, where should they go?
They should contact me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to have conversations with folks. I'm very passionate about AI in HR. I'm hopefully I'm gonna continue to learn.
Mm.
I'm also extremely open to learn from others. We have some conversations at CPO levels where we share best practices and how we are thinking about implementing,
Mm.
checking for fairness and bias, and really empowering our teams to do more strategic things. So happy to participate in any of these conversations, get to know people, share ideas, learn from each other, lead with curiosity. I think we're in for quite some exciting times.
I totally agree with you. And I'm very excited too. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.